Welcome to the second edition of the BS with Bob podcast. I'm bartender Bob, and Christopher is my guest. And I've seen play many, many times. She's a musician in the Driftless region in Wisconsin. And I just got to tell you right now, I'm a big fan. I love listening to you play. I think that listening to you sounds like there's more than one person up there on stage. And then when you're playing at Porks a few weeks ago, you were like using both your feet and your hands, and you had a harmonica going on. And I'm like, damn, this lady's doing it all here all at once. Is it hard to get used to doing all of those different things all at once?
Yeah, the drums aren't so bad, believe it or not, because I use my heel and just keep a beat with the kick drum pedal and the one I use for tambourine. So it's just, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's very aerobic.
Right.
But it gets a little tricky when I'm trying to do different kinds of rhythms and where I have to double up on my right foot or something like that. And there's a lot of brain work to it. And when you add the harmonica to that, yeah, I just literally break out in a sweat because it really is a workout. It's fun though.
So how are you at chewing gum and walking at the same time?
Not very good.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I'm really not very good, and I can't play real drums worth of crap. So
really, that's funny.
I've tried. I have an electronic kit, and I can go boom whack, and that's about it. I can't do anything in time though.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so funny. So who is Ann Christopher?
Oh my gosh. You mean like a history?
Yeah, who are you?
You want the history?
If somebody says, hi, hey, Ann, I'm Bob. Who are you?
Well, I'm Ann Christopher, and I used to be Ann Bailey. That is my real born name, Ann Bailey. My mom and dad owned Bailey's Bait Shop on the edge of town of Lansing, Iowa, where I grew up. I am the youngest of 7 kids, and yeah, my mom and dad had that bait shop there, and I was pretty young, and my mom divorced, and when I was, 5, 6 years old, remarried Laverne Christopher. Everybody called him Chris, and he was an excavator locally in Lansing. I think he originally was from Waterloo, but we took on his name when my mom married him. And that's where basically I became a river rat. So my folks commercial fished and took us kids out there. Might even be considered child abuse nowadays, but they used to dump us off on some little tiny, sandbar island or something back in the backwaters. And we would swim while they did a seine haul or whatever you call it, and then pick us up, with a boatload of fish and head to the fish market. Good times, good memories there. Yeah, clean fish all through high school. I enjoyed the work, but I didn't enjoy the smell.
Right. When did you discover your love for music?
Age 9. Believe it or not, I was watching, and I tell people this story, I was watching Hee Haw show. We didn't even have color TV. We had black and white TV back then. I saw Johnny Cash on the TV, and I was absolutely mesmerized. And I'm like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. And it just stuck in my head that I wanted to play guitar right then and there. And my folks got me a guitar out of the catalog, the Wish book, and it's hard to hide one of those when it comes all wrapped. It looks like something big, right? Came in a cardboard box, and I took lessons from Sister Sharon at the Catholic Church there in Lansing, probably for a couple of months with some other classmates. I remember Aaron O'Malley and I had the exact same guitar, Sunburst.
Right.
Well, we were cool, but I stuck with it. I never gave up on it. After a couple of months of taking lessons, I started playing for the Catholic Church for services, and scared out of my mind. But I had a good teacher, And I just continued to learn on my own as best I could at age 9,
Right.
3 chords, 2 fingers, 1 finger chords, whatever. Get your little tiny hand wrapped around stuff. And then my mom's friend, Agnes Seitz, used to come over, pick me up, take me to nursing homes, group homes, and she'd let me play her electric guitar while she sang. And I got to play that beautiful Sunburst electric. I think it was a Gibson or something. It was a nice guitar, big old amp. I couldn't pick it up back then, but we'd go around and she'd help get me out of my shell as best she could.
Right.
And then when I got older, I was in the band room with my sister at Key High, and there was a teacher there, Mrs. Remen, Jane Remen, and she saw me gawking at all the horns and everything, and she said, "Would you like to be in band?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I would, of course." It was like a kid in a candy store. And she goes, "Well, pick something out that you like, And I said, "Well, I don't know if I'd have to ask my parents first." And so I went home and asked them about it, because my sister Sherry got a clarinet about the same year I got my guitar. So she had her instrument, I had mine. And when I asked my folks to join band, they're like, "Absolutely not." I think it was because it was going to cost them extra money or something.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went back and I told the teacher that, she goes, "Well, we don't charge rent. You can just pick an instrument, So then I went back again and told my folks, "It doesn't cost anything, and I get credit for it."
Right.
So they were like, "Okay." So I was like, "Yeah." So I was a freshman when that happened. So I had to learn how to read notes fluently enough to play an instrument, not sit there and go, "Every good boy does fine," on the
right.
all that. I had to really learn it. And I think I picked it up pretty easily.
What instrument did you pick?
Baritone. And then I went from baritone to tuba, because a classmate who was a year or two ahead of me, Dwayne Estebo, big burly guy like yourself, he played the tuba. But then I got it handed to me, which I played treble clef baritone, so I had to learn bass clef then in order to play tuba, which I did.
Right.
And I'd have to say baritone was really my first choice of a horn that I wanted to play. Tuba was kind of boring, as far as, concert band goes. And
tuba's not that sexy either, damn. Let's just be honest.
Not for a girl. No.
Not at all, man.
But I was tall and I was strong, and I used to carry that tuba home on the damn bus.
Did you really?
Come on, got to practice. You can't do it all in school. So
no, you really can't. I played trombone when I was a kid, and the funny thing is, Mr. Kelly was the teacher's name. And I hated playing it, but my parents made me, they're like, "You need to take an instrument. It shows, it teaches you creativity, and it teaches you to keep practicing something and doing it and whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I dislike doing it." So I've always been a big kid. I've always been a big guy. And I remember I was eating Oreos in band class. The whole band was there. So everybody was sitting up, and, we sat up in the back because we were trombones, and I was popping Oreos in my mouth, chewing them as I was doing it. And Mr. Kelly goes, "Mr. Schmidt, what are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." The Oreo fell out of my mouth and rolled all the way to the front of the class. And he looks at me and he goes, "You get the hell out of here now." And I went and sat out in the hallway, and I was done with band after that. So the Oreo cookie got Bob out of band class.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
I used to take all, as many instruments as I could, take home at, this
Right.
week I'll take this one home this week. She let me try everything, So I played French horn, tuba, baritone, and trumpet, and trombone a little bit. And,
what's your favorite?
Baritone.
Do you still play?
No, I don't. I had a trumpet for a while. But, you get older, you can't play those things in an apartment building in Madison. So
well, you can, but you just don't get to stay there very long.
right, it pisses everybody off.
So are you? Do you just? No, don't take this the wrong way, but are you just a musician, or do you have other work?
Yeah, I gave up. I had a good job working at S&S Cycle in Viola, and I worked there for a lot of years. I worked on cylinder heads. That was
cool.
I did a lot of airflow research for the company and worked in research and development, and all that kind of stuff. I got laid off in 2008, and I thought, well, this will be a good chance to kind of get out of small town Viola, where I'd been living for, 20 some years, and go see a bigger city, which kind of scared me to death, but I went anyway. And right away, I hooked up with a bunch of musicians there they're like, wow, where did you come from? Because of my vocal capabilities,
Right.
Everybody's like, holy nuts, And so I got to meet a lot of cool people. And it's funny that Todd Osborne, he ended up moving to Madison too. And we hooked up again after years of not staying in touch.
Right.
And,
Let's backtrack for people that are listening right now. So I was a radio personality for 30 years, and I worked in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I worked with Todd Osborne at Classic Hits 94.7 in La Crosse. And Todd and I knew each other pretty well. He actually painted part of the house that my ex-wife and I had up in La Crosse because he liked painting on the side. And, I always knew he was a musician and stuff. And Ann plays, like I started off with, she plays music locally in the Driftless region in Wisconsin and Iowa. And I saw her the other day and I said, hey, Todd Osborne. And that's kind of what brought this whole conversation on is that somebody that I knew and that she knew, and we had a friend in common, even though Ann, you and I have known each other for a while, we just didn't know that we had this other piece of the puzzle that was part of it, which was pretty cool. So, okay. So now that I gave a little bit of the backstory. So anyway, you and Todd ended up seeing each other again in Madison after playing and talking to each other in La Crosse for a lot of years. Yeah.
And he actually sat in with my band, at the time I was in, and played my bass, and that was great. That just freed me up to do some singing on a couple gigs. He'd step in and he'd just show up, and unrehearsed, you just step in. Here's what we're doing. And he's like, he had it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That is a lot of fun. So you've been a professional musician since 2008. Have you had any really cool, life-changing events that have happened as a musician?
I've had some great opportunities. I'll put it that way. I mean, music, I got to backtrack a little bit here. When I got laid off in 2008 and I went to Madison, I still had to have a job. So I was working at a couple of different places and still playing music, band and solo gigs. And I was just trying to figure out how to nurture my musical career. Right. I ended up moving back to Viola area. What was it, like 2010 or 11 or something like that, and bought property and actually went back to work at S&S and for Rockwell Automation in Richland Center. And I was just wearing myself ragged, and eventually got hired on back full-time at S&S, doing a totally different job, working on machinery there, maintenance, and it was very physically demanding. And at that point right there, I was like into it for a couple of months in this new position, and I was like, I'm almost 50 years old. I don't think I can keep this up without getting hurt, And gigs were coming in left and right, so I was playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, and still trying to hold this job, And I was like, I got to get off the crazy wheel here and just do what I love. Life is short.
It is.
Make some choices, you can't be good for anybody else unless you're good to yourself. So I sold the property. My partner and I went over to Echo Valley near Ontario, Wisconsin, and we worked there in exchange for a place to live, and we cut wood, did chores, took care of 20-some goats for them, and then I was free then to play music more, which everything just started picking up, and I was playing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. I was busy all the time, and then we've got property over here by Mount Zion. That's been a few years ago now, and we're totally off grid and self-sustaining. People say, well, how can you just play music for a living? I say, you sell a whole bunch of stuff.
You live in a van down by the river.
Yeah, get rid of all your overhead, and then, so that's basically what we did. We started living very minimally,
right,
and was able to save money, and we invested in our property here, and it is what it is now. And I'm still playing music, and I'm getting some great gigs. I've had some great opportunities playing music. Getting back to that, I was, as you know, I was in this band called the Headbolts Band with Dustin Lamb, Keith Isaacs, and Bruce Tessmer, and I was the bass player, lead singer, and we got to play for S&S Cycle's 50th anniversary on the big stage there at Oktoberfest grounds. Thousands of people there for that, and that's probably one of my most memorable gigs in a band setting.
Right.
I've also played Milwaukee Pride Fest, Madison Pride Fest, and several bars in Madison, a couple bars in Milwaukee. Out of my comfort zone, here in the Driftless, I know a ton of people because I've lived around here forever, so I have lots of peeps,
right.
And what I've come to discover is, like, the big shows are great, but what's even more important to me, at least at my age and everything, I'll disclose I'm going to be 59 this year, but I think it's important to make great community connections with people, and the fact that I get to do that through music, I do fundraisers, birthdays, all kinds of, weddings, things like that. You get to make these connections with people that's priceless. Really is.
And I see that happen because I've seen you play at many venues solo locally, and you do have a following that come to see you. But it's funny because you have a following that I've seen, but you've also got different people that come depending on where you're playing, which is really cool. And they all know and love what you do, and will love to watch, Ann up there performing. And I remember the first time I saw you, I'm like, this lady is awesome. And then I've been lucky enough to be working a few times when you've played, and you do pack a house, which is really cool. So how has technology changed what it is that you do?
That's huge. Because of my setup that I use, I call it, you ask how I get that big sound,
Right.
My best investment is for equipment. It's not been guitars. It has been the Bose system that I play through, and it just fills up a room. That sound system really does. And then I bought this harmonizer by Digitech, and I bought this, I don't know, it's probably 10 years ago when I started using it, and you can go a third above, a third below. You can double. You can sound like a choir if you want, but I don't go to that extent. One or two voices mixed in with your own, and it gets its information from the guitar chord. So when you play a chord, it knows the harmony. It finds those notes, thirds and fifths, whatever, and then you put them in there with you. So, using that kind of stuff makes your sound bigger, and it does turn heads because people are like, wow, how is she getting that? I call it my men in a box.
Well, that's one of the things that drew me to listening to you and loving your sound so much is the fact that you're a one woman band, yet you sound like you're, like you've got a whole band with you. So, I mean, it's pretty cool to see that. And then the size of the equipment is so small compared to, I used to do dances when I was starting off in the radio business, just doing DJing dances. And the stuff we used to have to carry in there, it took 2 men to do it, and we carried it all in and set it up. And it took an hour to set up and 45 minutes to tear down. And, you're in and out of the place in a few minutes, and you've got your, everything packed up in the back of your car.
Yeah. It goes up and down pretty quick. And I still have the big equipment for the band. I got the trailer, the big subs, and the tops, and the monitors, all that. I figured it was just easier for me to purchase that stuff and have it than try to get people to collectively buy them.
Right.
Because then if somebody leaves, then you're, what do you do now? So I have the small PA, and then I have the bigger PA for the band. So it's a lot of investment, but I think playing through the smaller systems nowadays, they've got it dialed in, and the mixers and everything with all the cool effects that you can get out of these things, it's mind blowing. And there's so much out there. And I don't buy the cheapest stuff, but I can't really afford the super expensive either. And I figure for what I'm doing, I don't need it. I get something I know is solid. It's not going to break down. It sounds good. Run with it.
What advice, Ann, would you give to somebody that's just starting off in the music business and wants to, get out there and perform, wants to make some money doing it rather than it being not even a side hustle, but me and my buddies are getting together, we're playing in a band, we're making music. How do they go from that playing in their garage to going out and doing it and making some money doing it?
First of all, if you're in it and you're practicing and you got 36 to 46 songs, you can do a full show. One, you got to be, if you want to be good, you got to be serious about it. Everybody has to be all in. If you got one person that is, I can't, my kids are, oh my God, it's so hard to work around some of that. I'd say pick and choose your times and stick to them. Be a person of your word so that you can all get along and get your homework done,
right?
And all of that. So when you want to go out and start doing bookings, what I used to do back in the 90s that's how long I've been playing professionally, really. I used to go take my guitar to a venue and sit down and play a few songs and say, well, this is the kind of music that I or the band does. Do you have any interest in booking? And they're like, oh yeah, you sound great, and mm-hmm. that's how I started doing it. And that grew. So now people they know who I am or they've heard of me, and I don't have to be the salesperson anymore. People more or less reach out to me, which is awesome. But it takes a while to establish that. Having good communication skills and, try to patronize the places that you're going to play at, because that's important. It takes community to keep these smaller bars and stuff open that people want to have music at.
Owners do like to see the people that they're paying in their place, in their establishments. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
So do you get nervous?
Oh yeah, I always get nervous, believe it or not. Every
really?
Show. Well, I put pretty high expectations on myself.
Right.
And I always try to play something new that I haven't attempted before.
Like that one?
Yeah, and that was a fun song.
Yeah, you did a good job.
I enjoyed playing it. Yeah, that was great.
It's funny that you mentioned the put high expectations on yourself. So as I've mentioned, I was a radio guy for a lot of years, and I tend to put myself on a different playing field when it comes to like talking in front of people. I hate talking in front of people. I despise it. It scares the death out of me. And people are always like, Bob, you did radio for 30 years. Radio is in a little box, like in my studio here. It's not with people in front of you. And I've had to introduce bands before. I've had to, introduce at the circus. The first time I ever introduced somebody at the circus, the Barnum and Bailey Circus was in the lacrosse center. And my first week moving to lacrosse, my job was to go out there and say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the circus. And I had to do that. And I'll tell you what, for being a big guy, I'm not much of a sweater, but I wore like a button-up shirt, and by the time I was done, I had sweat all the way down. My whole shirt was just drenched. I was so scared. And I still, to this day, Ann, I'm 57. I'll be 57 years old in a couple of months. I'm still scared to death to talk in front of people. Even at the bar, if I'm talking, if I'm behind the bar, I'm fine. But if I'm on a microphone in front of people, it scares me, and it's crazy that it does. And it's kind of funny to hear that you still get a little nervous when you go out there and do it, since you do this.
I call it the good nervousness, It's been some time ago now, but when I lived in Madison, I had an opportunity to travel to Michigan, to the Michigan Women's Music Fest. And I don't think that exists anymore, but it was huge. It was all women, and I got to play in front of I bet there was 1,000 people there on an acoustic stage type of thing out in the middle of nowhere, right. Out there. And the Indigo Girls just got done playing their show on the main stage, and people were making their way back to this acoustic area. But it was amplified. They just call it an acoustic stage. But I got to play. I did White Rabbit and I don't know, something by Janis Joplin, I think, just a couple of songs. And I was literally, my legs were like this, like jelly. And I hadn't had that in years.
Right.
But I was in an environment where I didn't know a soul, really, and no peeps there for support. You're just there, and you're up there doing it. And my name got drawn to do it. So you put your name in a hat, and if you're lucky enough, you get picked. And I got picked, and I was like, oh my God. And that was probably one of my most nervous shows. I think the second one would have to be playing in front of thousands of people at S&S Cycle's 50th. That was a bit nerve-wracking as well.
Right.
Jackal was setting up before my band got there, and so we got to listen to them, and we had to set up in front of their stuff, and they were running late, and I was like, oh, it was making me so nervous. By the time I got up there, I was just talk about sweating. Oh yeah.
Right. So do they tune their chainsaw? Does the chainsaw get tuned?
No.
They just go out there and play that. They just play that blind. So do you have a favorite song to play?
I do, but you probably wouldn't even know what it is. See, how do I explain this? They're people turn me on to music. It could be, all over the place, and I'll listen to it. And if it grabs me, I'll attempt to do it. There used to be a duo called the Divine McGee's. It was two women, and what's the name of that song? Gosh, I'm going brain dead right now. Deep Blue Undertow. That's the name of the song. Okay. It's so beautiful, and I don't really play it out very much. It depends on. It's more like a coffee house type setting, but the song is so beautiful, and the harmonies are beautiful. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite songs to play. But I do gravitate more toward rock and roll. Mm-hmm. I like Jefferson Airplane a whole lot. um, Pat Benatar, Joan Jett, that kind of stuff. And I like blues songs. Like Lucinda Williams is probably one of my favorite artists too. Raw. I like people who have the raw voice,
Right.
and I feel I kind of fit in that mold.
Every one of the bands that you just mentioned were bands, either women solo or women lead singers. You also do a lot of singing of, like you did Aerosmith the other day. You did some Doobie Brothers. You did Freebird. I mean,
Pink, yeah.
But I mean, so you can cover pretty much anything and everybody. As far as this fan thinks.
You're welcome. I have something that I would like to share. I went out on my own, and here's my little. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a glare.
Oh, waking up.
Yeah.
So instead of having Folgers in my cup, I can have Ann Christoph.
You can. For only $10. This is back. I took all the pictures myself. Did all the hard work on the CD. I recorded everything here in my little studio here at home and sent the tracks off to be mastered in Colorado by a dude. And this has been my first original CD recording stuff, and I'm kind of proud of it,
How do people find that? Do you have a website?
You can go to Facebook. I use Facebook. It's on Spotify. I don't have any. If you want to order one, you just got to contact me. And I have them at my shows. I also have T-shirts for sale, pretty sexy. The Beanbag over in Lansing has been making these for me.
Oh, nice.
And people have been putting their own sayings on the back. I don't know if you saw my buddy Dick.
Yep, I did. His back was toward me when I was working the other day, and I don't remember what it said. It said something about "Don't be a dick."
No, it said if you don't know Ann Christopher, you don't know Dick.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what it said. I remember I read this something, you don't know Dick or something on there, and I'm like, what?
And then some other friends of mine are getting some made that have on the back. They say, "I'm an animal," ANN.
So what's your Facebook under, Ann?
It would be under Ann Christopher Music / Annie and the Crush.
All right. It's CHRISTOFFER. If anybody, and I'll put the link in the bio for the on the podcast.
Yeah.
So 15, 20 years down the line, so how do you want people to remember Ann?
I hope that they remember me as being a people's artist. I really mean this when I say it. Bringing people together one note at a time. That's my motto. Bringing people together through music. It warms my heart to see people dance or reminisce about a song or sing along when people are singing along in the crowd. I mean, as an entertainer, I don't really look at myself as an entertainer. I just look at myself as an artist. But in fact, I am entertaining people. It's an obligation to try to make connections with people. All through my life, I've watched other artists get up, do their thing, and then, like, say you go somewhere and somebody's playing professionally, big stage, they can't make those close connections with people because they're so far away. They got big screens and, thousands and thousands of people watching these big shows, but they can't make those close connections with people like you can do in a smaller setting. And to me, that's been a lifeline for mental health too. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not. There's this thing where if you get isolated, you kind of shut down. But if you're around people need people. That's what we're here for. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to give somebody the gift of music. That's my goal. I want to give people the gift of music. I let people get up on stage occasionally and sing or play a song with me, whatever. And I don't, as long as they're not falling down drunk or something, I don't find it annoying. I find it fun. It's really not, I'm not trying to play karaoke night or anything, but occasionally somebody will want to get up and, it's a birthday party or something. Somebody wants to get up and do something. And I'll be like, yeah, come on. And like, oh, I'm so shy. No, come on, I'll help you. I won't let you fall down. I'll help you. And they're like, oh my God, I did it. And that's a gift. That's a gift. It doesn't cost a thing. You just come have fun. That's what I'm hoping people will remember about me, is being able to give the gift of music.
Thanks so much for listening to the BS with Bob podcast. Basically, it's just me pulling up the metaphorical bar stool and chatting with everyone from entertainers to educators to business owners to marketing gurus. People who've done cool things, survived weird stuff, and have a good story to tell. Please like, subscribe, and share the podcast.